You're only as good as your tools, so you want to make sure that you're taking care of your tools so that they perform well. Alright, so here's a brief anatomy of a lettering quill. You've got your handle. For lettering quills, it's going to be a plastic ferrule, so you're not going to usually see a crimp. You'll see the crimp on like metal ferrules. So this will just have some glue around here acting as the crimp. And up here you're going to have like another tie and crimp around the edge of the heel here. So this will hold all the bristles in place, and then you have the belly, which is kind of this middle part of the bristles, and then the toe. So that's where we're gonna have the edge here where you have a really good chisel. And it's gonna be generally an animal hair. It's never going to be synthetic. It's just like our hair. So it'll either be squirrel hair, camel hair, or hog hair, and then sometimes there's other specialty hairs from other animals, but typically this is what you're gonna see in a traditional lettering quill. So this right here is my personal brush box. So I can, you know, store a good amount of brushes of various lengths in here, and it just has these coils. So it kind of holds your brushes in place so they're not rolling around and picking up debris. A really good art store or online science supply store or any kind of pinstriping place should have them as well. That's a good thing to have. If you don't have that, you can tear off a piece of cardboard and then if you have some rubber bands handy, you get a couple of rubber bands. Just something to hold it in place while you travel and so it's kept flat. So I'd usually do a rubber band here and another one here. And then that way it's still in the same shape, you know. Everybody has some cardboard lying around, you know. If you can't get one of these fancy brush boxes right now or you're just starting out, this is totally fine. This will work great. Just keep it in a clean, dry place and you should be good to go. So yeah, as you can see here, these brushes are in pretty rough shape. These are the ones I use for when we do classes because generally people are using a brush for the first time, so they're really hard on them. So I always make sure to kind of do a reset on them after each class so that everybody has a fair chance to use a nice new conditioned brush. Brushes are very much like your, you know, magic Harry Potter wand. It'll take on the imprint of whoever is using it. So if somebody's new to a brush or heavy-handed, you'll get a lot of stray hairs over time. Or if they've just been sitting around and they've dried up a little bit, you know, it's nice to give them a new hot oil treatment to make sure everything's, you know, clean and fresh and maintained properly so that you can be, you know, painting to your best possible abilities. So what you'll need is just an old like cardboard box you have lying around, something that you can get a good long piece of cardboard out of. You won't want to use anything that's wax, just like that regular raw paper cardboard, just that corrugated stuff. You want to make sure that you can either tear it easily or that you have scissors available so that you can easily cut that. You'll need some tape, maybe duct tape or masking tape, or if you're lucky enough to have clamps so you can easily secure your cardboard to the table. You'll need some rags, paper like cloth. You will need a can or something that you could put paint thinner in. So you'll need some just regular paint thinner, nothing added into it, just your basic stuff you could find at the hardware store. You'll need motor oil that you can use as your brush oil. You always have to make sure that it's a non-synthetic oil, so I typically use just the cheapest one of like the 10W30. That's great. All oils are a blend. So there will be, you know, some synthetic blend in with it, but you want to make sure that you're not intentionally buying a full synthetic motor oil. So I just put it into like a small jar. That'll be kind of easy for me to palette it off in when I begin to condition my brush. And then of course, you'll need some brushes that you need to condition. Oh, and you will definitely need to be in a well-ventilated place, and you're gonna need a lighter. So let's get started. And make sure my brush doesn't have anything floating in it. Just get all the little pieces out of it. And I'll get my shop rag. So I want to make sure it's nice and clean before I start oiling it, and dry. So I think we're ready to go. I got it clean. I'll get my jar of brush oil. I want to put some on the cardboard. Just make sure that I'm getting a liberal amount of this so that when I light it on fire, I'm not going to immediately start the cardboard on fire. So that's probably good. It's not too dry and it's also not soaked through, so. Now I'll get your lighter. And we'll go below the cardboard here. And the goal here is to get the oil sizzling, not to immediately start it burning or anything like that. We're just lightly toasting it. I'm gonna be looking on top to see what's happening to the oil. And kind of keep it constantly moving so we're evenly heating the oil surface. Starting to get there. I'm seeing some bubbles forming. We kind of want it to start a sizzle. So now it's starting. So that's probably good. I'll hold off. I'll wait a second so I don't scorch my hairs. Then I'll come from the edge and start drawing oil across real quick, not lingering on it too much. And then I want to make sure I'm moving 1, 2, flip it, 1, 2, putting light pressure on each side as I'm drawing it across the hot surface here. And maybe on the other side here, a couple different surfaces. We're mainly just conditioning our brush to move in a way that we find is more intuitive to our needs. And I'll check on it, make sure there aren't any extra areas that need a little bit more shaping to it. I'll take a look. And that looks pretty good. So now, after I've worked out some of the dead hairs and little pieces in there, I'll make sure that I give it a little rinse and some paint thinner. And get a rag ready. So I put a little bit of paint thinner in here. I just kind of want to move it around to make sure that I'm working anything that might have burnt off or loosened up in there, like dried paint, out of there. Pat it on the edge. And I want to lightly run the bristles through my rag. You can see there's little pieces there of debris that came out of the brush. And just kind of work it through, make sure any loose hairs are falling out. And then wipe the handle. Use this as an opportunity to get everything cleaned off. And then I see I still have a couple little hairs there that do need a little additional attention. So I'm gonna do it again. So again, I'm gonna get my brush oil. Make sure that's saturated. And this is something that's great to do when you first get your brush, or you were gifted a brush that somebody else previously owned. You just want to make sure that your brushes are always performing for you and that you're not borrowing somebody else's fingerprint or, you know, brush style like that. You'll definitely feel the difference. So now it's pretty saturated. I'm gonna come back and do the same thing. I'm gonna heat up the oil. Might be a little bit windy. Again, just kind of watching for that sizzle. And moving the flame around. Making sure all the oil is evenly heated. And then as you can see, we're getting a sizzle. Now I want to wait. I don't immediately want to drag my brush through that. We don't want to risk frying our bristle ends. So I'm going to take some oil from the edge. I'm going to quickly draw it across, go back for oil, go back across that hot area, and then do the same thing. 1, 2, flip it, 1, 2, and keep doing that. So I'm making sure that it's equally balanced. Then apply some pressure if you need to work out any bends. Same thing. If any loose hairs fall out, that's fine. It's natural, it's normal. Then if we look at our brush, check it out, much smoother. This is what you want your brushes to look like. When I touch them, like, they still maintain their shape. I'm able to chisel them to like a sharp point on the end. I know people have brushes that are like 100 years old that were passed down to them, and it's true, like if you store them properly and clean them properly, these should last you a lifetime.